Hey guys, what's going on? I'm back with another video. First and foremost, happy Wednesday to everybody. So as you might remember from last week, I started a new series where every Wednesday I make a video and I talk about the different football games that are going on that week, give my take, about them, discuss them, and ultimately say who I think is going to win. Like I said, I had messages and comments and different things like that about sports, and I thought, let's start a new series because I've tried to start one for a long time, and I thought, this is a good fun thing to be talking about. So without further ado, let's get started. But before I do that, I just want to give a shout out to Hater Tots, who's another YouTuber. You can check out his channel by going to the link in the description down below. So anyways, let's get started. So the first game is tomorrow night, the Thursday night game between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. I've got the Packers winning this game. I mean, obviously they're a stronger team. However, Green Bay they've struggled recently. Aaron Rodgers has not looked like his old self. I actually read an interesting article where they were saying that since Deflategate, because if you remember, Aaron Rodgers came out and said that he likes he liked to have his footballs overinflated, like have too much air in them. And obviously since Deflategate, the league has had a lot more security around who gets to put the air in the balls, so they don't take air out, and just make sure everything's at a the regulated right level. And apparently ever since then, if you look at the statistics, Aaron Rodgers' numbers have come down. Like ever since they've really started enforcing having the right amount of air in the ball, he hasn't played as well. I guess it's just his numbers aren't as good as they used to be, and he is someone who said he likes the balls overinflated, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting article. Conversely, the team that the Deflategate was associated with, the Patriots, Tom Brady's numbers actually went up. Like, he's actually playing better since they started, enforcing the amount of air in the balls to make it, the right way. So I don't know, you can interpret that for however you want. I mean, you just can't dispute that he's had trouble, Aaron Rodgers. In the Packers, definitely, if you watch the Packers-Cowboys game, it was actually a pretty good game. I just wish it was a bit more competitive. Just wasn't, that could have been, like I said, I think I said in the video last week, that could have been a primetime matchup. Should have been, actually. But yeah, Packers, they're a stronger team. Not only that, they're just, they need to win games now to get people to stop talking about the fact that they're not as good as they used to be, like I have been right now. So they need to win, no question about it, and I think they're going to be able to do that. So next up, we've got the New York Giants and the LA Rams playing on Sunday at 9:30. Oh, I think this must be a London game. I think that's what it is. So there are some of the games, I think they go over to London to play. So they're on earlier in the day because obviously in the UK the time zone is different, so that's much later in the day there. So we got an early game, or earlier if you're in the US. I guess if you're on the West Coast in the US, it's like 6:30 in the morning on Sunday. They're gonna be playing this thing. So yeah. But anyways, I got the Giants win this game. I think the Giants are a better team than the Rams. However, I don't think you should write off the Rams. I mean, they're not Cleveland, if you know what I mean. I also don't think that the Giants, while they're good, they're not that good. I don't think they're in the upper echelon of teams this season. However, I think I'm hesitant to say they've been better than they were last season. I think, I know a lot of people like to get on the Odell Beckham Jr. bandwagon. I personally don't, just because it seems like the thing about the Giants is they're one of those teams where, every season they either have it or they don't. Like, I think the last time they were any good, or the last time they were in the playoffs, really, was like 5 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. And I mean, if you think back to then, I remember like Mario Manningham, the deep ball to him in the Super Bowl. Now they got Odell Beckham Jr. I guess there's this like thing with him and like a net, like a kick and net. He's like, he's always doing something kind of weird. And so obviously he's a great deep threat as a receiver. And I feel like they either have it or they don't as a team. You know what I mean? Like they either completely have their act together or they're just not good. Anyways, I've got the Giants winning this game. I mean, I wouldn't write off the Rams as if they're Cleveland or something like that. But still, I mean, I think the Giants are just, I think they just have what it takes going into this one. All right, so next game up, we've got the Cleveland Browns. Oh, get the hell out of here. We've got the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. You see, this is the thing. Everybody's making out Cleveland to be just, like the worst team ever because they're 0-6. Obviously, that's bad, right? But I feel like at the same time, if Cleveland really wanted to win games, they have what it takes. Like, they're not losing 50-0. You know what I mean? Like, they're just not that bad. Like, they have what it takes to win games if they wanted to win games. I mean, they've had some close ones. It's just that at the end of the game, they just don't win. I mean, they're they're just not as bad as I think people make them out to be. But obviously 0-6, they're not about a whole lot, especially when they're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. So obviously I've got Cincinnati winning this game. However, I think a lot of people underrate Cleveland. Obviously they're not going anywhere this season. However, they're not the lost cause that people make them out to be. So yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati. But I wouldn't write off Cleveland as like the worst team ever by any stretch. So next game up Sunday 1:00, we got the Washington Redskins and the Detroit Lions. I've got the Redskins winning this game. I think the Redskins are 4-2 right now. That's pretty darn good. They're making a statement this season. I mean, they're not going to Super Bowl. However, they're pretty good. They're a lot better than people expected them to be. I think they've been doing pretty well. I think they've got a good program going on. Right now, they're making progress, I definitely say. So, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see at the end of this season. I mean, I think they're definitely a playoff contender. In going into next season, I think they have a lot to build off of. Also, they stole Josh Norman from Carolina. You can see how Carolina is just completely falling apart. They're like I've seen them like as low as like 27 and 28 in power rankings. I mean, 15-1 to 1-5. I mean, a lot of that has to do with Carolina's defense. The effect of losing Norman there, and now the Redskins have him. And I think the Redskins, they're about something this season. And on the other side of the ball, obviously Detroit, they had that win against Philadelphia, which like I said before, that was a great game. However, it seems like Philadelphia is not the team we had made them out to be when they were 3-0, so it was a little bit deceptive there. And I'm not saying Detroit's bad. I'm just saying that Washington's better in this one, so I'm going with the Redskins. Next game up, another 1:00 game on Sunday. We've got the Oakland Raiders and Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going with the Oakland Raiders. They're a better team. Also, if you just look at the record, Raiders are 4-2, Jacksonville's 2-3. That should really tell you everything that you need to know. Jacksonville, they did just lose a really close game, 17-16 to the Bears. Then again, the Bears aren't about a whole lot. On the other hand, the Raiders did just lose to the Chiefs 26-10, so the Raiders are going to be pretty darn fired up going into this next one. So I'm going with the Raiders. So next game up, another 1:00 game. We've got the New Orleans Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm actually not sure of what to make of this game because if I look at the Saints' last game, which was against Carolina, the Saints won 41-38. Like, that's unbelievable for so many different reasons. One, the Saints scored 41 points against the Panthers. Two, the Panthers, with as bad as they've been, scored 38 points and lost. It just, the fact that even is a reality is just really unbelievable. And it's a bit deceptive in the fact that you think, the Saints, beat Carolina and they scored 41 points. Well, Carolina is not the Carolina of last year. Carolina, you got to remember, is like 25, 26, 27, 28 in the power rankings now. So I wouldn't put too much faith in New Orleans. I'm going to go with Kansas City just from a record standpoint. We're talking about 3-2 versus 2-3, so I've got Kansas City win this one. Next game up, we've got the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. This is another weird matchup just because I remember last week when I was talking about Miami playing Pittsburgh, I said, forget it, they're going to get blown out. Pittsburgh. They're just so much better. And, look at that. Pittsburgh lost to the Dolphins. They also lost Roethlisberger. I think that, has quite a bit to do with it, but we'll get to that when we talk about Pittsburgh in just a bit. But anyways, Buffalo's for real. I mean, they're not Denver. Buffalo's defense has looked really sharp. Their running game with LaShawn McCoy, I mean, that guy's fast as hell. It's unbelievable. However, Miami did just beat the Steelers, who I don't think many people would disagree with me saying that the Steelers are better than Buffalo. So if I had to pick, I'm going to go with Buffalo just because I think Miami kind of got lucky. Well, I don't want to say lucky that Roethlisberger got injured. I mean, Miami's lucky. Pittsburgh's not lucky. So yeah, I'm going to go with Buffalo just because I think their defense and their run game is going to be a lot for Miami to deal with. Next game up, another 1:00 game. We've got Baltimore Ravens, New York Jets. New York just benched their starting quarterback today. They got Geno Smith in there now, is taking over for Ryan Fitzpatrick. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Baltimore, on the other hand, like I said in the last video, Baltimore isn't the Baltimore Ravens of a few years ago, of 2012, 13, 14. It's not them. I mean, they're 3-3, which is pretty good. However, they just lost to the Giants. They're not the best team by any stretch. However, they're a whole lot better than the New York Jets, who just got blown the hell out by the Arizona Cardinals just a few days ago by a score of 28-3. So obviously I've got Baltimore winning this game. Another 1 o'clock game here. Oh boy, we got a nice matchup. We got the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. I'm going to say this is going to be the upset of the week right here. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Minnesota Vikings. Now let me tell you why, because I know that's a bit of a hot take. So Minnesota, they're 5-0 right now. They just had their bye week, so they're coming off of that. And I think that the way I see it is that Minnesota, much like everybody else, never thought that the Minnesota Vikings, after losing Adrian Peterson, Teddy Bridgewater just a few weeks before the season started, bringing in Sam Bradford. I mean, nobody ever thought that a team like that was going to be 5-0, and yet they are. And I don't think they believe it either, honestly. I mean, I think they just had a bye week, and there's something about bye weeks. I mean, yeah, you get rest, but at the same time, all the momentum that Minnesota had of beating 5 teams in a row unbelievably is pretty much lost in a bye week, just because you lose that momentum there, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. On the other hand, the Eagles used to have a lot of momentum going for them, and obviously they had some losses there, and they're starting to kind of get everything going once again, and they have potential. Not that Minnesota is pretty damn good, I'll tell you right now. They're number 1, if not number 2, in most of the power rankings. They're for real. There's no question about it. However, just kind of like my controversial take on this is I feel like I can see the scenario where the Eagles pull this one out. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a close game. Minnesota's got a very good chance of winning. However, just given the circumstances, the bye week, losing your momentum there, the fact that they probably don't even believe they're 5-0 either, and the fact that the Eagles kind of have an axe to grind, I don't know. I feel like Minnesota could lose this one. So I've got the Eagles. However, I don't think that the betting people out there are probably with me on that. Next, we've got the Indianapolis Colts and the 10. Oh man, this is a real kind of sucky matchup right here. You got the Colts and the Titans. I mean the Colts, they just lost to the Texans. I feel like ever since, because I think I just saw on the news today, or the sports news, that either today or yesterday, I think, was the 1-year anniversary of that really dumb play. It's been called the dumbest play in football history that the Colts ran last year. It was like, remember, they had like the whole team over on one side and then like 2 guys, whatever. I don't even think they know what they were doing there. The dumb play, you can look it up. People call it the dumbest play ever. Ever since then, whenever I think of the Colts, I just think of that, and I just think of them not being as good as they used to be. They lost to the Texans. They're 2-4. On the other hand, the Titans are 3-3, which on paper, I guess that looks better. Except you got to remember, we're talking about the Tennessee Titans right here, a team that, they just won their last game against Cleveland. They won it 28-26. I mean, look, beating Cleveland by 28-26, that's not a whole lot to be that excited about. So I think that this is a case where the numbers are kind of deceiving. I got the Colts winning. Pagano, the whole crew, they need W's. It's just as bad as anybody else. The Tennessee Titans aren't about a whole lot. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I've got the Colts winning this one. Next game up, we got a 4 o'clock game. We've got the San Diego Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons. This is actually a pretty good matchup, much better than like before the season started you would have thought it would be. Because San Diego, they just beat the Denver, which, I don't care if Denver was missing their coach, their quarterback. If you just beating Denver, especially when you're the 2-4 San Diego Charger, well, I guess at that point they were 1-4. That's a feat that shows you're about something. I actually watched that Thursday night game. I thought it was a good game. I thought San Diego looked really good. The other thing you have to remember here is San Diego, even though they're 2-4, a lot of those 4 losses, they had huge leads. Like they, probably should have won those games. It's just, like the defense at the end of the game couldn't hold it together, and they lost. So don't let that, 4 losses deceive you there. I think they're a really good team. It's just that, kind of like with Cleveland, like they had what it takes. It's just in the end, it didn't work out in some of those games. So I think San Diego's a little bit underrated. Especially having beat Denver. The Atlanta Falcons, on the other hand, they're red hot. I know they did just lose to the Seahawks. Well, they should have won. I think they came out and said that the Falcons actually should have beat the Seahawks in the game because I guess there was a crucial play there where I guess Richard Sherman blatant interference on somebody on Atlanta, and they didn't call it because I guess there wasn't a ref in position to see it. So had they called it like they should have, Atlanta, I guess, would have won the game. So I'm not going to really dock Atlanta any points for that. They went toe-to-toe with the Seahawks, and for all intents and purposes, beat them, I guess you could say. I've got Atlanta winning this game. I think they're red hot. I think they've got what it takes. So I'm going to go ahead and say that that's who I have to win. Next game, another 4 o'clock game. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the San Francisco 49ers. I've got Tampa Bay winning this game. It's not because Tampa Bay is an unbelievable team. It's because the 49ers just flat out suck. They're terrible. They got blown out by the Buffalo Bills 45-16. They changed their quarterback, bringing in Kaepernick, which really didn't do anything. They're 1-5. Chip Kelly, he left Philadelphia, went to San Francisco. Arguably made it worse. They're not about a whole lot. Whereas on the other hand, on paper, the Buccaneers are 2-3. Whereas on the other hand, the Buccaneers are 2-3, which that's not a whole lot to get all excited about. They've got a bunch of players injured. I think they just put somebody on injured reserve, I saw. However, you got two kind of... However, with that being said, beating the 49ers doesn't really take a whole lot at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and say I've got the Buccaneers winning this game. Next game... Okay, so this next game here could have been the game of the year. Like this matchup here, this is the one people had circled on their calendars. Because there's been a lot of news about football ratings being down this year on TV, and I think it has to do with just crap matchups. Like there just haven't been good matchups like we've had in recent years. And this was going to be one of the few games this year which was just, going to be a great matchup between, powerhouse teams, conference rivalry, playoff implications. Of course, I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots playing on Sunday at 4 o'clock. This was going to be a great matchup between two top teams. Like I said, with playoff implications. And the reason I'm saying it was going to be is because Ben Roethlisberger just tore his meniscus. He had surgery on Monday. He's out for this game. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Pittsburgh's backup quarterback, Landry Jones, is probably not going to be able to hold down the fort. I guess from what I've heard, he's really not that good. From a numbers standpoint, when you take Roethlisberger out of there, just the numbers for Pittsburgh come way down. And this matchup is going to be basically a toss-up, with Pittsburgh at full strength. Now you take Roethlisberger out of there, you put a backup in there. It's really not looking good for them. And now instead of being, like this great matchup, between two great teams, now it's just going to be another kind of mediocre. On the other side of the ball with the Patriots, Tom Brady's angry as ever. I guess they're just blowing teams out every week. So yeah, they're going to win this game. So I've got New England winning this one. It's really a shame because this was going to be a good matchup, close matchup, and now it's just another Tom Brady blowout thing. So yeah, I've got the Patriots winning this game. So next game here, this is a nice matchup. We've got the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals for Sunday Night Football. I think now that, like I said, Roethlisberger's out and the Patriots are probably going to win pretty easily, I think now this is the best matchup of the week. I actually forgot about this one. Like I knew about it, but going through the games, I kind of forgot that this game was even happening this week. So Seattle and Arizona. Seattle's really gotten it going in the last few weeks. They're kind of back up to where they used to be. Back, to their former self, I guess you could say. They're up in the top 5 now in pretty much everybody's power rankings. On the other hand, Arizona, they've got what it takes, no question about it. I think if anything, Arizona's kind of underwhelmed with their performance just a bit, like most people have been. Like I said in the last video, going into this season, I think people thought Arizona was going to be, like the one of the best teams, if not the best team this year. And, right now we're going into week 7 and they're 3-3, which I don't think many people would have imagined. Seattle, they're not the 2013 and 14 Seahawks. However, I think these last few weeks they've really gotten it going. So it's definitely going to be a close game. You could really make an argument either way. I just think that Arizona has, more that they need to, prove as we're coming down the stretch here. And these games start to have playoff implications. So I've got Arizona winning this game. So last but not least, oh boy, we got another nice one here. We got a nice little grudge match between the Houston Texans and Denver Broncos Monday Night Football. So obviously the main storyline here is Osweiler, who was supposed to be Peyton Manning's replacement for Denver, hightails it out of Denver, goes to Houston to take more money. And you can make an argument either way as to whether or not that's been successful. Houston's 4-2. Broncos are 4-2. So I think there's kind of, all things considered, it really hasn't put that much of a dent in either team. And I think if anything, Houston, I know they're 4-2 now, but they started off slow. So I'm not blown away with the Houston Texans at all. On the other hand, I'm not blown away with Denver. I think Denver coming into the season looked like one of the best teams. I mean, they were up there with, Minnesota, Patriots, Steelers. I mean, they were up in that kind of like elite core there. However, they've had some kind of, I don't want to say embarrassing, but they've lost some games they should have won against teams that really weren't as good as them. And I know that losing their quarterback, and then I guess losing their coach, losing Kubiak, who I guess is going to be back now. He had an illness. That definitely doesn't help. However, at the same time, they're not the 2015 Denver Broncos. And they both have the same record too. They're both 4-2. I've got Denver winning this game just because they've got their coach back now. The trend line for them, it kind of has to go up. They need to win games after losing quite a few if they kind of want to go toe-to-toe with Pittsburgh and New England. I mean, let's just face it. As far as the AFC is concerned, it's the I guess now the Patriots are in first place, Steelers second place, Denver in third place. And as we saw last year, and especially with the Denver Broncos, with how hard it is to play in Denver for other teams, home field advantage really matters in the playoffs. And the only way to get that is to start winning games. They've got what it takes. They've lost some games. They need wins. They've got what it takes. Whereas on the other hand, Houston isn't. They're good. They're just not anything exceptional. So I'm going to go ahead and say I've got Denver winning this game. Because Denver, they were number one, and now they've kind of fallen, and they need to pick up the slack. And there's no time like the present. So with that being said, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, that sort of thing. Most importantly, just if anything, just leave a comment and tell me what you thought. If there's something I can improve, something I can do better, if you disagreed with my take on any game, let me know. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. But like I said before, it's kind of fun to have a different series. We do a lot of GTA. I know Battlefield 1's coming out this Friday, so I'm going to have some videos of that for sure. But I think it's fun to mix it up. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed as well. So other than that, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching.